Sup nerds, I'm Tom. Let's talk about Railways of Portugal, which is not a standalone game, it's an expansion for Railways of the World. On our channel, we already have a full Our Thoughts video for the base game of Railways of the World, and we also did a Kickstarter preview video for Railways of Portugal when it was on Kickstarter, so I don't have much more to say, but let's do it. The first thing you'll notice about this expansion, if you've played the base game before, is that this is a pretty small map. This expansion is mostly made for a smaller number of players, 2 to 4, and I think it really excels at that. In the base game, you had a Railways of Mexico, you had a smaller map for a smaller number of players, and I'm glad that they included that. And I think the Nippon expansion was also for a smaller number of players, and I really do think that is something that is, I don't want to say necessary, but it's definitely good to include in Railways of the World, because with these really big maps, that go up to 6 players that take up the whole table, you don't really want to do those with like just 2 or 3 people. There's too much to spread around. I don't even know if you can do it with 2 players for some of those maps. Or when you have the whole United States, you have those 2 maps linked together. Yeah. In addition to this map being really good for a small number of players, it's also pretty unique. They added a couple new mechanics in there. First of all, there's no black cities on the map. Normally you're delivering goods cubes to cities that match the color of the cube. Well, there's no black cities on there. You can urbanize a city, a gray city, to become a black city for $5,000 instead of for $10,000. So you do it at a bit of a, it's a bit cheaper for you. Well, it's half as cheap. But that stops, when you do that, that's what triggers the stop of this other mechanic, which is these 2 areas. I'm not going to pronounce these names right. Madeira, and Aquarez. At the end of every turn, so not every player turn, I know it's a funky way that they do this, but at the end of this whole round, right, the whole turn phase where everybody takes 3 actions, then, you get your income and stuff, and we add a new card here. We will add a cube to each one of these areas. So these areas can just get tons and tons of cubes on them. They can just really accrue. And you could, wait for this to accrue a bunch of black cubes and then urbanize this. So it's not going to be adding more cubes here, but then you urbanize this and then you can just start deliver. Maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you want to make Black City all the way over here so you can deliver, a 5-link chain. But that is another really cool mechanic, that we keep adding cubes here. And every time, it's almost like a little bit of a game of chicken where every time we keep adding cubes there's so many cubes there. We're like, okay, maybe we should urbanize because we want to almost kind of stop this. It's going to get kind of out of hand. But it's not too out of hand in the idea that at least every single person can link to this area. You have these maritime connections now where you're connecting over the water. But there are some areas, these ones that link over here to Lisboa, those are only one person can do it. These 2 areas where the cubes keep getting added, anybody can link to that, so that doesn't really cause that much of an issue there. We're like, oh wow, we keep adding cubes over there and Tom keeps getting to deliver those cubes and we need to stop it. It's not really for that, but it does create an awful lot of demand around these areas too, because you're going to want to now be, Madeira is connected to Sagres. Okay. So that's a gray city. So they're probably not going to be doing a bunch of 1-link connections there. But when we're spread out from there, everybody's going to want to have a slice of that pie, so that when all these cubes keep getting added here, they can take it through and start delivering through as many of their chains as they can. You can use somebody else's link, but they get a point for that, and you really don't want to do that. It's probably also important to note that I am right now looking at the Kickstarter edition of this game. So there are a couple promos in here that are really cool. Homage to Pombal and Port to Porto. These are both promos that are for kind of promoting, I guess, Vinhos and Lisboa, which are 2 other games that have been designed by Vital Lacerda, who actually did design this map. So that's pretty cool. You also don't have Baron cards. I think that's what it was in the base game. The hidden gold cards that you get at the beginning of the game. These cards are just called gold cards. I mean, they're effectively the same thing, but you also do get a cool Neverboard Gaming promo if you have the Kickstarter version. It's gain 3, 4, or 5 points if you have 2, 3, or 4 hotels respectively. Pretty cool. If you don't have it, highly recommend you guys pick one of these up. My only real complaint that I have for this expansion isn't even really a complaint. It's just something I'm kind of curious about. So they printed out these big, huge cards that are player references. And these are normally just cards in the base game and other expansions. I don't know why they made them so big. They put the map on here, a mini map here, I guess so people can, secretly, count up. Oh, okay. Let's see. I'm going to spend $3,000 for that connection and $6,000 for this maritime. And without anybody being able to know. Oh, look, he's looking right here. I think he's going to build a connection here. Maybe. I guess it's one of those things where you have it, right? Whether you use it or not, it's included. It's just a little. When I first opened up the box, I was looking. I was like, why are these so huge? But I don't even know if that's a complaint. That's just kind of like. So if you have Railways of the World and you're looking for an expansion, again, this is an expansion. This isn't a standalone. Like I think Railways of Nippon, there was like an expansion version and a standalone version. This one right here is the expansion version, but I highly recommend you get that if you have Railways of the World and you want to play it with a smaller number of players and you're kind of getting sick of that Mexico map or something. And even if you don't have Railways of the World, you should check out our thoughts on the base game. I really love this game. This is definitely my favorite train game. It's the issue that I only have with it, with the base games, I'm usually like, well, this is just a really big game. It takes up a lot of space on the table. The Mexico maps help with that, and this map helps with increasing variety for when you want to play with a smaller number of players and add some new cool mechanics. And there's an Everboard Gaming promo. There's literally no reason for you to not purchase this game in the description box down below. Go ahead and get yourself a copy, and while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you'll never be bored.